In a small town in the mountains known as Baiji, a duel was about to take place. Many people were there to witness this duel. Suddenly, a group of people arrives, climbing the stairs. What appears to be their leader is at the front of the group, called Pavilion Wind. This man thinks that he has finally reached the point he wanted, and when he wins the duel, he will be able to join the strongest sect of the league. He has a memory of some tragedy that happened in his life, with several people dead on the ground. But he thinks again that now the truth is very close to him. Another person is standing in the middle of the arena. This person is called Hong. He is the leader of the Hongmen clan. Hong asks which of them is the challenger and asks him to come forward. The leader of the Pavilion Wind sect steps forward and introduces himself, saying that he is the master of the Pavilion Wind sect, and his name is Ling Xiao. One of the members of his sect is angry that Hong does not know them, but the girl next to him asks him to keep his composure. The audience is surprised to hear the name Ling Xiao. A man in the middle of the audience tells his friend that this Ling Xiao is the new spiritual master who suddenly appeared, and many sects were defeated by him. Ling Xiao does not want to waste any more time and announces to Master Hong that he will no longer beat around the bush and will start. He begins to release his energy and summon his spiritual beast. A lot of smoke begins to rise, and suddenly, a huge shadow covers the arena. The audience is in awe of what they see, wondering how he managed to develop and cultivate such a powerful spiritual beast. His spiritual beast is a whale, classified as the first. Its name was Kun, the aquatic giant. Hong looks at all this and says that the Pavilion Wind sect are fish farmers and that they probably have some skills. That same member of the Pavilion Wind sect gets angry again for Hong having called them fish farmers. Hong prepares himself and says he will show something interesting. Suddenly, a giant hand hits the ground, causing destruction in the arena. Hong's spiritual beast is a giant monkey called Suna, classified as the first type of walking beast, Sky Ape. Then, the battle begins and the two spiritual beasts begin to fight. The audience thinks that the leader of the Hong clan is better. After all, it is an A-class sect. The girl from the Pavilion Wind sect asks if everything will be okay, and the other boy tells her not to worry, as the conditions for the beast's evolution have been met. The girl is shocked by this, asking if this is really true. Ling Xiao begins to concentrate his energy and says that he is a good person, and how dare he challenge Master Hong. He is naturally somewhat confident. Ling Xiao says that this trump card was prepared for this duel against Hong. Suddenly, an intense light comes out of Ling Xiao and goes straight to his spiritual beast. The whale begins to release a lot of smoke, and its eyes are already different. It begins to emerge from the smoke, and, as we can see, it is much larger and terrifying. It attacks the monkey with a bite, and the monkey screams in pain as it is bitten. Hong is shocked by what he is seeing. He shouts, saying that Ling Xiao has evolved his spiritual beast to the entry state and wonders how this is possible. The audience, seeing that Ling Xiao's beast is in the entry state, panics, as it is the first time for many there to see a beast of this level. Other people ask who this Ling Xiao is and say that the outcome of the duel is already decided. That same boy from the Pavilion Wind sect boasts that now everyone knows what the Pavilion Wind sect is capable of, and another member says that Ling Xiao is worthy of being the leader of the sect. But something unexpected happens. A crack in the whale's skin appears. The girl realizes that something is wrong. The whale's skin continues to show cracks more and more. Ling Xiao does not understand what is happening, and now the entire skin of the whale is cracked. It begins to lose its skin, and its flesh starts to appear. Its eyes, from blue, turn yellow, and, after losing almost all its skin, it turns into a colossal zombie monster that even the monkey panics. Ling Xiao wonders if the evolution failed and what went wrong, as his whale turned into a zombie monster. The whale turns and heads towards the audience, and without mercy, begins to kill everyone there. Ling Xiao tries to control it with his energy, but it is of no use. It turns its attention to Ling Xiao, who continues trying to control it. The whale is getting closer and closer to Ling Xiao, and when it is in front of him, the girl screams for him to be careful. Ling Xiao thinks that this monster is completely out of his control. The whale opens its mouth to attack, and at that moment Ling Xiao wonders if he is going to die there in that way, after working so hard for so long and being one step away from the truth. He thinks he is not willing to give up, however. His life ended there. at that moment. Suddenly, in a beautiful place with trees and mountains, a person wakes up under a tree. He scratches his head, somewhat confused, looks at his hands, and wonders how he ended up in that place. He sees a stream nearby and decides to go wash his face and drink some water, but the moment he looks at the water and sees his reflection, he is startled and spits out all the water in his mouth. As we can see, this person is Ling Xiao. He wonders who this person is and how he became her, but first of all he decides to calm down. He thinks and concludes that this must be the effect of the skill, Seize the Body and Nirvana. To be safe, the whale learned the skill, Seize the Body and Nirvana. The skill consists of, when the master of the spiritual beast dies, he reincarnates randomly after a year. When the master of the spiritual beast dies, Nirvana will be activated automatically. After a year of keeping the master's soul, he will randomly occupy another person's body and be reborn. Ling Xiao realizes that he has taken over this person's body and resurrected her, but he is sad to realize that he has been dead for a year. Ling Xiao is angry because he was very close to putting his sect in the upper league. The truth could have been discovered, and now all his efforts have been wasted. He is also frustrated because his pet whale was sacrificed when the Nirvana body swap was activated, and now he has to retrain a new spiritual beast. Even though he has survived, he is now back to square one, and for him, this is very disturbing. Ling Xiao wonders what really happened. He had checked the evolution condition, and once again, there was not even a slight miscalculation. So why did the evolution fail? Why did the whale turn into a zombie? Did someone interfere with the evolution? If so, who was it? No one else knew the secret of the whale. Ling Xiao thinks about who the current owner of his new body is, and what he was doing to be there at that moment. He has many questions. Suddenly, Ling Xiao hears several people running nearby. He turns to see what it was. The people who were running begin to scream that there is a person right there in front and that they should check. As they get close to Ling Xiao, one of the guys in the group informs everyone that he had found him and that everyone should go there quickly. The others start to arrive from behind the bushes. Ling Xiao thinks that everyone there must be the guards of the Bai residence. Ling Xiao realizes that their clothes are familiar to him. He continues thinking and concludes that the group really are guards of the Bai residence. Bai is a sect of the Second League. Ling Xiao greets them and takes the opportunity to ask about the situation. Ling Xiao says that everyone there seems to be very anxious and asks if they are looking for something. The same guard who found Ling Xiao starts yelling, telling Ling Xiao to stop pretending. The guard calls Ling Xiao Fengmeng and a pervert and asks where he hid the ladies. Ling Xiao is shocked, wondering why they are calling him a pervert and which ladies they are talking about. Ling Xiao stretches out his arms, shouting for them to wait, as there must be a misunderstanding. He pleads for them to listen, but the guard asks Ling Xiao to stop talking, as he is a cunning pervert, so they must kill him quickly. The guard lunges at Ling Xiao, but he manages to dodge at the last second. He supports himself on his arm as he moves away from the guard. Ling Xiao thinks this is bad, as there isn't enough time for him to explain himself. He sees that there are only a few guards, so he can easily deal with them. Ling Xiao begins to conjure a spell to release his beast. He tells everyone to prepare for what is coming. The guards are worried, as Ling Xiao is going to release his spiritual beast. The guard tells everyone to be careful. Ling Xiao thinks he is lucky, as the owner of his current body is also a spiritual master, and he has 2 spiritual beasts, although Ling Xiao does not know what kind of beasts they are, but it shouldn't be a problem to command them. Ling Xiao stretches out his hand confidently that it won't be difficult to defeat the guards with the beasts. Ling Xiao shouts for the beast to come out. When the beast begins to emerge, Ling Xiao looks at it and thinks that judging by its shape it doesn't seem bad, and judging by the shadow it seems to be a fierce beast. The guards back off a bit and prepare, but the beast that Ling Xiao summoned is just a small puppy. Ling Xiao is dumbfounded, wondering what the hell this is. The puppy runs towards Ling Xiao, who asks why the dog is running in his direction. But when the puppy reaches Ling Xiao, it grabs onto his leg and starts doing indecent things. Ling Xiao thinks that the previous owners of his current body not only are perverts, but their spiritual beast is too. Ling Xiao finds this very embarrassing. The guards are dumbfounded by what is happening. The guard grabs his sword and shouts that there is nothing to fear, and says it will be easy to finish him off together. But at that moment, Ling Xiao remembers that he has another spiritual beast and decides to summon it as well. The beast appears, however. It is a normal vine-type beast. Ling Xiao asks the vine beast to attack, which it obeys and uses its vine arms to attack. The vine beast wraps around the girl suggestively, which makes the other guards blush. One of the guards shouts at the protagonist, calling him a pervert. Ling Xiao puts his hand on his head and says that these beasts are not normal and have been trained the wrong way. Ling Xiao tries not to panic and thinks about how to solve this. He thinks there might be a creative way to use these beasts, so there is still a chance for Ling Xiao. At that moment, someone cuts off the vine beast's arms and throws a stone at the puppy. But seeing this, Ling Xiao realizes that he has no chance at all. Ling Xiao was captured by the guards and tied up with his own vine beast's vines. He sighs as he sits on the ground and thinks that this is crazy. Reborn in the body of a pervert with such spiritual beasts. Suddenly the guard shouts, asking Ling Xiao to speak now about where the Bai ladies are. Ling Xiao responds that, as he said before, this is all a misunderstanding. Ling Xiao asks if the guard will listen to his explanation. The guard puts his sword to Ling Xiao's throat and asks him to speak. Suddenly, another guard arrives shouting that they found the pervert's dwelling. A simple house in the middle of the forest. This was the house of the former owner of Ling Xiao's body. The guard asks if that house is really his. Ling Xiao says he thinks maybe. However, the guards didn't wait for Ling Xiao to finish speaking and already knocked down the door of the house. Inside, the guards began to search, while the protagonist just watched. One of the guards tells the captain that they have searched the entire house, but found nothing. Ling Xiao sighs in relief and thinks he is safe now. Suddenly, the guard punches Ling Xiao in the face, asking where the ladies are. Ling Xiao yells at him, saying that the guard is a horrible guy, as Ling Xiao said it was a misunderstanding, and still no one listened to him. He continues saying that if it had really been him, he would have put them in a basement, and asks if his house looked like it had a basement. But at that moment, one of the guards shouts, announcing that they found a basement. Ling Xiao starts to cry, thinking he is an idiot. The leader goes there to check. He opens the basement, and there it is, full of girls with cloth in their mouths and tied up. The leader tries to calm them down, saying that they are there to save them. Ling Xiao starts sweating, seeing that there are many girls there, and thinks that the former owner of the body was crazy. The guard jumps in to help the girls. She shouts from inside that they found Miss Bai. The guard takes Miss Bai out and asks if she is okay. All the other guards kneel down, asking if she was okay and apologizing for being late. And the protagonist in the back, not knowing what to do, as he was caught red-handed, so it's over for him. The leader turns to Ling Xiao and asks what else he has to say. The leader takes his sword and says he will end Ling Xiao in the name of justice. Ling Xiao accepts that it is his end and does not say a word. He only thinks that he managed to be reborn, and in less than an hour, he will die again. But suddenly, Bai intervenes. The leader asks what she would like. Bai asks to let Ling Xiao live for now and take him back to the residence. Bai says she has her own arrangements to deal with Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao, hearing this, is scared. At night in Bai's residence, Ling Xiao is chained to a pillar. He thinks about why Miss Bai didn't kill him. She just brought him to the residence and kept him in captivity. She clearly does not want to torture him as revenge. Ling Xiao sighs, as the two beasts he has were defeated, so he cannot summon them until they recover. Ling Xiao thinks that now it is indeed his end. He cannot escape from there. There is nothing he can do to save himself. Suddenly, the door of the captivity opens and the light of the lantern goes straight into Ling Xiao's face. The leader of the guards arrives and says that Miss Bai wants to see him. As they walked through the residence, Ling Xiao asks how they are planning to torture him. Ling Xiao wants to know, as he intends to prepare mentally for it. When they arrive at a gate, the leader says it is right there. Ling Xiao asks where the execution chamber is. The guard informs the protagonist that this is Miss Bai's room and tells Ling Xiao to enter. Ling Xiao asks if it is really her room, but without much ado, he begins to enter the room. Ling Xiao calls Miss Bai, but there were no answers. Ling Xiao wonders why it is so dark there and what she wants to do with him. Suddenly, a match is lit and used to light a candle. Bai is sitting in her chair saying to Ling Xiao that he is finally there and calls him a pervert. Ling Xiao is speechless for a moment, but gathers courage and asks what she wants with him. She asks him if he knows the reason she didn't kill him. Ling Xiao responds saying that probably she is very kind and would give him a chance to redeem himself. But with that, Bai gets furious and asks how a pervert like him dares to drug the water and try to take advantage of her. Ling Xiao responds that he wouldn't dare to do that, and that this is all a misunderstanding. Ling Xiao realizes that Bai really wants revenge. Bai begins to say that she has never suffered something like this since she was born, and Ling Xiao is the first person who made her suffer. Bai begins to conjure her magic and tells Ling Xiao that it will be easy to let him die, but his death will not quench her anger. She intends to keep him forever in her residence and make Ling Xiao a lackey that she can humiliate at any time she wants. Suddenly her spiritual beast appears. It is a big white snake. Ling Xiao raises his hand and says that at the moment he can't, as since childhood he was spoiled and doesn't know how to serve people well. The only things he knows are to eat, sit, and do nothing. He doesn't know how to wash clothes, cook, and also is boring, and for that reason he cannot be a lackey. With that, Bai gets angry and says that she is not negotiating with him. But the protagonist turns with an apprehensive expression and says to Miss Bai that she can find someone else to be her lackey, as he was leaving. Ling Xiao says goodbye and starts to leave. Bai listens to everything in silence, but before Ling Xiao leaves, she asks him who gave him permission to leave. She calls her spiritual beast and orders her beast to teach Ling Xiao a lesson. Suddenly the snake attacks Ling Xiao. He sees the snake approaching, but at the last second he manages to dodge. The snake goes straight and hits the ground with such force that it breaks a part of the floor. The snake called Xiaobai gets up and starts hissing while staring at the protagonist. However, with this attack, Xiaobai bit and cut the vine that was holding Ling Xiao. Bai warns Ling Xiao that if he wants to get out of there, he has to get past Xiaobai. Determined, Ling Xiao begins to unravel the vines from his body. He says that since they can't make a deal, then he will have to put in the effort. He starts to summon his spiritual beasts, but when they appear, they are sleeping with a sign saying, "Not to disturb," as they were off duty. Ling Xiao yells at them, saying that they will die if they keep relaxing. At that moment, the two beasts wake up terrified. Ling Xiao yells that now there is no time for them to fully recover. Now it's win or die. Ling Xiao still doesn't understand the powers of his beasts because he is the new owner of the body, but he asks his beasts to do their best to win. The Onion and the dog are determinate. Then, Xiaobai attacks and bites the Onion, which didn't even try to dodge. Ling Xiao is shocked by this, but it's all part of the Onion's plan. It uses its vines to tie up Xiaobai, holds Xiaobai's head, and uses more vines to tie up its entire body, again in a suggestive way that even Xiaobai blushes. The dog starts running towards Xiaobai. It jumps and uses its pea on the eye skill on Xiaobai. With this, Xiaobai is unable to see properly. She falls to the ground disoriented and trembling. Bai is shocked, wondering what kind of techniques these are, and once again calls the protagonist a pervert. Ling Xiao thinks that it was as he thought. None of his beast's techniques are normal. Ling Xiao says that at least it worked well this time. Bai yells that Ling Xiao's beasts were perverted beasts in their infancy. They cannot defeat her white snake that is in the 5th phase of adolescence. Then, Bai decides to show what she is capable of. Suddenly, Xiaobai's eyes begin to shine, and her body starts to emit smoke. Now Xiaobai's body is on fire. This technique is called fire scales, and consists of burning any substance attached to the user's body, generating high heat with scaly friction. With this, Xiaobai manages to burn the vines and free herself from the bindings, while also burning the onion alongside. The dog decides to avenge its friend Onion, but Xiaobai hits the dog with her tail and throws it far away, passing by Ling Xiao and hitting a rock behind him. Now the dog and the onion are out of the battle. The snake looks at Ling Xiao and starts to hiss. Ling Xiao is scared by this. Bai starts to say that Ling Xiao no longer has spiritual beasts, and asks how he will fight now. Then Bai orders Xiaobai to attack. Xiaobai rushes at full speed towards the protagonist, who just stands there in panic. But Ling Xiao manages to hold Xiaobai's mouth. With the impact, he is thrown into a lake. Ling Xiao sinks into the lake and, inside, he thinks that it will be impossible to defeat that snake and wonders what he can do. But suddenly, he turns and sees a small fish swimming nearby. He wonders what that is. From outside the lake, Bai and Xiaobai just wait for Ling Xiao. Bai asks if Ling Xiao died, as she hasn't even played with him for long. Ling Xiao gets up, and Bai is surprised. She starts to say that Ling Xiao is strong and asks him to continue the fight or just give up. Ling Xiao raises his hand and releases his energy. Suddenly, something begins to emerge from the lake. Bai is confused, asking how he had another spiritual beast. A small bright blue fish emerges from the water. Bai, shocked, looks at the fish and realizes that it's just a pond fish. She starts to mock Ling Xiao, saying that he caught a fish in the pond and wants to use it as his spiritual beast. But the protagonist is determined. Bai covers her mouth with her hand and asks Ling Xiao if he knows the story of the catfish. Ling Xiao asks what story that is. Bai says that many years ago, this type of fish was highly popular. This was because the leader of the Pavilion Wind managed to raise it to an invincible colossal whale. But unfortunately, that fish lost control, swallowed and killed its master during the battle that happened a year ago. Since then, it has been called the monster that killed its own master. The Alliance issued an order to slaughter all the remaining fish on the continent, and now these fish are almost extinct. Bai says that her brother secretly kept this fish in the pond, and it may be the last catfish on the entire continent. Furthermore, everyone agreed that only the leader of the Pavilion Wind knew the secret to raising a catfish. No one else could successfully evolve it to become anything more than a useless spiritual fish. Bai puts her hand on her chin and says that she didn't imagine that Ling Xiao would contractually connect with this kind of wild monster that swallowed its own master. She says she feels sorry for him. Ling Xiao responds that there's no way to know if he doesn't try. Bai tires of talking and orders Xiaobai to attack. Ling Xiao yells at his fish that he would leave it to him. The fish flies out and goes straight past Xiaobai. Ling Xiao holds Xiaobai by the mouth, trying not to be swallowed again. The fish continues to fly while Ling Xiao is being attacked. The fish reaches behind Xiaobai and starts to suck on its tail. Bai, seeing that, can't believe what she's seeing. She asks what the fish is doing and if this was some kind of joke. Bai points at Ling Xiao and yells at him that she didn't think he was wise, but she didn't imagine he was so stupid. Bai says she feels insulted to have suffered at the hands of Ling Xiao and calls him annoying. She says she has no more time to play and that he will die now. Ling Xiao is still struggling with Xiaobai and Bai yells at Xiaobai to bite Ling Xiao to death. Xiaobai's fangs begin to pierce Ling Xiao's hand. Ling Xiao turns his face away from the snake's breath. At that moment, Ling Xiao calls his fish and tells it to hurry up. The fish then nods, prepares, and begins to suck the snake's tail in. Bai and Xiaobai are shocked by what the fish is doing. The fish quickly begins to swallow Xiaobai whole, leaving her completely terrified. The fish continues sucking until it swallows the snake completely. Bai is horrified by this and starts to tremble. To relieve itself, the fish burps. Bai falls to her knees on the ground, covers her mouth with her hand, and says that this is impossible. Ling Xiao starts coughing as he calls his fish back. Then, he stores his beast. Ling Xiao, while trying to get out of the lake, tells Miss Bai that she is very arrogant. So, Ling Xiao had no choice but to have the fish swallow Xiaobai. Ling Xiao takes the opportunity to apologize to Bai. As Ling Xiao leaves the lake, he says goodbye to Bai. He jumps over the small wall and leaps away, leaving Bai fallen on the ground and finished. Bai starts to cry, cursing Ling Xiao. Bai clenches her fists and yells, calling the guards. The guards arrive asking what the problem is. Bai points out, saying the pervert is escaping. She asks them to hurry up and bring him back. The leader kneels and tells Miss Bai that they don't have enough time and pleads for her permission to use the spiritual beasts. Bai yells at them, saying they are very inflexible. She asks how they intend to catch up with Ling Xiao without using the spiritual beasts. But at the same moment, the guards summon their beasts to go after Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao at this moment is running through the forest. As he runs, he thinks that, given his current strength level, he is an easy target. But he is lucky to have found and captured a catfish, and, with that, he has a chance to get back to the top again. He continues running, thinking that Bai won't let him escape so easily. Ling Xiao thinks it's better to escape from that place first. The next day, the sky was extremely beautiful. At a nearby station, several people are arriving. The receptionist welcomes the group. The guy says he would like to enter the city and wants to rent a beast that is not too expensive but can provide a comfortable ride. The receptionist asks for a minute for the group and shouts, asking for a spiritual beast that can provide a pleasant ride. At that moment, two guys arrive and start summoning the beast. A giant scorpion with 2 chairs, a chest, and a lantern appears. The receptionist says that the scorpion has comfortable seats and is able to meet the client's needs. The client tries out the seat and says it's not bad at all. Then, they say goodbye, and the client leaves. Suddenly, Ling Xiao arrives running, asking for a spiritual beast. The receptionist asks what the beast would be used for, whether for personal or commercial use. Ling Xiao, all sweaty and tired, says he wants to go to the Pavilion Wind Sect in the 2nd League. Ling Xiao adds that the sect has a membership agreement with this station, so he asks for a fast beast, as he is in a hurry. The receptionist smiles and says, there's no problem. He just needs the sect's access key, including the movements and the words of the secret code. Ling Xiao coughs to clear his throat and starts dancing, saying, little fish pa pa pa, big fish pa pa pa, pavilion wind mua mua. The receptionist turns white upon seeing this scene. Ling Xiao sees the receptionist's expression and asks why he looks like that and if there's a problem. The receptionist replies that there's nothing wrong, he's just looking for the details. Ling Xiao puts his hand on his forehead and thinks he shouldn't have asked Gu Ling to create the sect's codes, as this is very embarrassing. He remembers Gu Ling saying that the movements were ready. Suddenly, the receptionist interrupts Ling Xiao's thoughts and says that the record does not exist. He asks if Ling Xiao is sure that the movements and codes are correct, and if Ling Xiao wants to try again, but Ling Xiao refuses to do that again. After a while, the receptionist finally finds it. Ling Xiao wastes no time and asks for a supersonic falcon, but if there's no falcon, a shadow beast would be enough. The receptionist apologizes and informs Ling Xiao that the Pavilion Wind Sect does not meet the required level to rent these spiritual beasts. This confuses Ling Xiao, as these spiritual beasts are exclusive to the 2nd League sects. Ling Xiao remembers Bai's words, saying that after the fish swallowed and killed its master a year ago, the Alliance issued an order to slaughter all the other fish, and now they are almost extinct. With this, Ling Xiao is terrified. He thinks that the Pavilion Wind Sect must have suffered a lot after this incident that happened a year ago. Then he realizes that the sect is probably no longer in the 2nd League. Ling Xiao rushes to the receptionist and asks if the Pavilion Wind Sect was demoted, and in which league it is at this moment. The receptionist starts to sweat and stammer. Ling Xiao yells, asking why he is stammering, and asks again in which league the sect is, whether it's in the 3rd or 4th League. The receptionist regrets to say, but the Pavilion Wind Sect was removed from the leagues. This leaves Ling Xiao completely shocked. Back at the Bai residence, the guard is there and informs Bai that they split into 3 groups and searched for Ling Xiao within a radius of 5,000 meters, but were not able to track him. Bai gets so angry that she starts to tremble. She yells at them, calling them trash that can't find one person. She adds, saying that she suffered a lot because of Ling Xiao, and asks the guards if they couldn't help her take revenge. She continues yelling that she can't trust any of them. The guards apologize for their incompetence and ask Bai to forgive them. Suddenly, a strong wind passes and lifts Bai's dress. A huge shadow covers the guards, and a giant bird flies in the sky. The bird looks at them, and the dog that was there starts to tremble with fear. A tall guy with long hair appears flying mounted on the bird. Bai is happy with his return, as that guy is her brother. While Ling Xiao is sitting under a tree with his hand on his forehead, deep in thought, he recalls shouting at the receptionist, asking if the Pavilion Wind Sect had been removed from the leagues within a year and how exactly that happened. The receptionist informs Ling Xiao that he doesn't know about the incident, but shows him a notebook, saying that he can read the record to find out. The record contains the history of the Pavilion Wind Sect. In the 10th month of the 41st year, the challenge was successful, and the sect was promoted to the 2nd League. But in the 5th month of the 42nd year, due to the death of its leader, the Pavilion Wind Sect was demoted to the 3rd League. In the 8th month of the 42nd year, the Alliance ordered the extermination of all catfish and the elimination of any potential spiritual beasts belonging to the Pavilion Wind Sect, thus the sect was demoted to the 4th League. And in the second month of the 43rd year, a large number of sects committed looting against the Pavilion Wind sect. The sect was heavily impacted during the incident, and the Alliance removed the sect from the leagues. Ling Xiao was devastated, as he hadn't imagined that the sect would deteriorate so quickly after he died. He thinks that he probably focused too much on his self-improvement and neglected the overall strength of the sect. Ling Xiao remembers being very focused on elevating his sect to the higher league as quickly as possible to uncover the truth, and therefore, he couldn't take care of other matters like the overall strength of the sect. Ling Xiao sighs and begins to say that the sect has disappeared and that at the moment their spiritual beasts are in the infancy stage. All his previous efforts were in vain. Back at Bai's residence, Bai is crying to her brother, saying that Ling Xiao not only humiliated her, but also his spiritual beast swallowed Xiao Bai. Bai asks her brother to take revenge for her. Bai's brother is irritated with Ling Xiao and says it's very annoying, as Ling Xiao stole his catfish. Bai starts shouting at her brother for not paying attention to her and calls him stupid. Bai crosses her arms and asks her brother why he didn't give her that spiritual beast if the catfish was so powerful. Her brother responds that it's not true, that fish is very weak. Bai starts shouting, saying it's true that fish swallowed Xiao Bai very easily. Hearing this, her brother thinks about this technique, which is called swallowing, a catfish's class-level technique. The brother continues saying that this technique is not so powerful, as it can only swallow things that don't fight back. With this technique, the fish can swallow things many times larger than itself. The brother starts saying that if Bai had ordered Xiaobi to resist a little, Ling Xiao wouldn't have succeeded. Bai is shocked at how easy it would have been to escape the fish's suction. Bai's brother sighs and says he had already told Bai to study more about the battle techniques of the beasts, but she didn't care about it. Bai turns red with anger and shouts that Xiao Bai did resist, but her brother tells her to say whatever she wants, as he knows it's a lie. Meanwhile, Ling Xiao is in the same place talking to his fish. The fish makes a sad expression, flies close to Ling Xiao, and gives him a kiss on his face. Ling Xiao pets the fish and asks if his fish, named Puni, is trying to cheer him up and thanks him for that, but asks Puni not to worry. Ling Xiao, with a serious expression, says he won't stop until he avenges the death of his family. He picks up Puni in his hand and says that as long as he has Puni with him, he can recover what he lost. Back at Bai's residence, Bai's brother is saying that anyway, it's proven that the catfish is useless. It's not strong even in the later stages. And there's also the risk of swallowing and killing its own master. Returning to Ling Xiao, the protagonist tells Puni that everyone thought he was useless. They think Puni is a kind of monster and even exterminated his species. But Ling Xiao says he knows exactly how strong Puni is. The brother says there was only one exception, Ling Xiao. The brother is not sure what Ling Xiao did to make the fish turn into a colossal whale, but since he is dead, no one else knows how Ling Xiao did it. On the other hand, Ling Xiao says he knows the whole secret of how to make Puni invincible. The brother starts to leave, and as he leaves, he points out that even if the thief has the fish, he will only have one more rank and will not do anything more. He asks Bai not to worry, because one day he will end Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao tells Puni that he is sure Puni also wants to prove his worth. Ling Xiao says they must rely exclusively on themselves to go from nobody to somebody. Ling Xiao points his finger up and tells Puni that he doesn't blame him for what happened in his past life. But in this life, he asks Puni to promise one thing: swallow everything that comes his way and walk to the top. Ling Xiao returns to the station and thinks he can't go anywhere like this because he doesn't have money. He thinks he should withdraw the sect's funds. Ling Xiao calls the receptionist and says he would like to withdraw the funds from the Vento do Pavilo sect. The receptionist responds to Ling Xiao that there is no problem and goes to get it. He hands Ling Xiao a total of 6 taels of silver and 34 copper coins. Ling Xiao starts to tremble as he holds the coins and wonders what exactly happened to Vento do Pavilion. He thinks that with so little money, he wouldn't have enough to upgrade Puni, so he decides to spend the money wisely. Ling Xiao calls the receptionist again and asks for a beast for a trip. He asks for the cheapest one, and the receptionist nods. Not long after, Ling Xiao was on top of a pig running around. He covers his face in shame for running on top of a pig. Ling Xiao looks at Puni and tells him not to worry because his situation is temporary, and also says that he will upgrade Puni now. Ling Xiao says that for Puni to become stronger, there is a technique that Puni needs to learn first. Then, they arrive at a place with some signs. Ling Xiao decides to head to a city that is just ahead and look for a technique shop. Ling Xiao smiles and asks Puni to look. They finally arrived at the gate of Riley City. It is a very different place, full of beasts and humans everywhere. This place is fantastically fun. There are many types of spiritual beasts that inhabit it. Humans all over the continent are able to connect with spiritual beasts through contracts and thus live together, and even battle with the beasts. Spiritual beasts have become ubiquitous in people's lives. They have become an indispensable component of the world. Upon arrival, Ling Xiao thanks the pig and says goodbye to it, and the pig goes away. Ling Xiao asks Puni what he thinks of that place because it's very lively. Ling Xiao explains that every city has its own amenities for spiritual beasts. Ling Xiao sees a group of people looking at a bulletin board and thinks there are probably important announcements on that board. So, he decides to go there to see. Ling Xiao starts to pass through people to see what's on the board and asks Puni not to stray from him. But what's on the board is an announcement of a highly dangerous spiritual beast. It says there are slaughter orders for the fish that can potentially swallow and kill its master. It is extremely dangerous. Seeing this, Puni and Ling Xiao are shocked, and Ling Xiao quickly hides Puni. Ling Xiao leaves there shaking with shock and says that because of the whale incident a year ago, Puni's species has become sought after by people from all over the continent. So Ling Xiao decides that before they become strong enough, it's better for Puni not to appear in public. Ling Xiao thinks it's better to proceed with the plan to find out how strong Lu Feng's body is. Sometime later, Ling Xiao is at the center of spiritual beasts. There, a beautiful attendant greets him and asks how she can help him. Ling Xiao says his two spiritual beasts are seriously injured. He puts his beasts on the table and asks the attendant to heal them, and also asks for an expert report on the types of his beasts. The attendant calls his spiritual beasts and says she will take care of it. The attendant packs the onion and the dog, hands them over along with a letter, and also apologizes for making Ling Xiao wait. She explains that the two beasts have been treated, and in a few days they will be fully recovered. That letter is the report of the types of their beasts. The attendant asks Ling Xiao to keep this information safe. Ling Xiao takes his beasts and the letter and starts to leave. As he was leaving, the attendant thanks him for coming there and says she hopes to see him again. Ling Xiao thanks her too, and leaves. Ling Xiao takes the reports of his beasts to see what they are like. There are all the details. The first is of the dog. It is a canine spiritual beast. Its subtype is poison. Its current state is the infancy phase, and it is at level 8. Its natural techniques are captured bites. Learned techniques are knockout P, aphrodisiac P, and antidote P. The evolution requirements are blank. As for the onion's report, it says that its type is plant-type spiritual beast, wisterias and vines. Its subtype is blank. It is in the infancy phase, level 7. Its natural techniques are regeneration bonding. The learned techniques are total vine wrap, vine mouth, and vine whip. The evolution requirements are also blank. Ling Xiao, when he saw the reports, realized that they had already learned some techniques and wondered where they learned those techniques and if it was self-invention. Ling Xiao says he didn't expect the teddy to have a poison technique. Ling Xiao thinks this technique is not bad, but both are in their infancy phase. Ling Xiao needs to be quick and evolve them soon, but Ling Xiao thinks and emphasizes that the most important thing now is Puni. Ling Xiao is now at the spiritual beast techniques shop. There, he is greeted by an attendant who asks what technique Ling Xiao would like his beast to learn. Ling Xiao responds to her that he wants to buy the bubbles technique. The attendant asks Ling Xiao to wait a bit while she checks. She takes a scroll and says that there is only one left. It is the last in stock. The price of the technique is 4 taels of silver. Suddenly, a person shouts at the attendant to wait. Ling Xiao and the attendant look back to see who it is. This guy says he will take the last bubbles technique. He offers triple the value and asks the attendant what she thinks. This man is holding a person tied up with a bag over their head. The attendant responds to the man somewhat awkwardly that the last unit has already been sold to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao tells the man that first come, first served. The man is not there to joke around. He starts to summon his beasts and asks if the attendant doesn't want more money and if she knows how to do business. He says his name is Zhue and says he will get what he wants. Zhue points his hand to the ground and a lot of smoke starts to appear. Suddenly a giant lion appears and roars at Ling Xiao. The attendant is scared and runs back, leaving the scroll on the table. Zhue goes to the table and takes the technique. He calls Ling Xiao and says he has two options. Either Ling Xiao gives bubbles to him, or Ling Xiao gives his life. Zhue asks Ling Xiao to choose wisely. Ling Xiao is frustrated and thinks this situation is terrible. He is sure he cannot fight Zhue given his current strength. Ling Xiao wonders if he should just give bubbles to Zhue. But when Zhue turns around and looks at Ling Xiao, he is astonished. Zhue starts to sweat and calls Ling Xiao Liu Feng, which is the former owner of the protagonist's body. Zhue smiles and calls Ling Xiao Brother Liu. Ling Xiao is astonished, not knowing what to say. Meanwhile, the lion is licking Ling Xiao's face. Sometime later, in a restaurant, Ling Xiao and Zhue are eating there. Zhue says it's been a long time since they've seen each other and asks where Liu Feng has been recently. Ling Xiao responds that he hasn't been anywhere, just staying at home. Ling Xiao is so nervous that he chokes while eating. Zhue tells Ling Xiao to eat slowly and asks if Ling Xiao is really that hungry. Zhue asks if Ling Xiao had caught more ladies, but Ling Xiao responds that he hasn't caught anything lately. Even so, Zhue smiles and says he envies Ling Xiao very much. Zhue tells Ling Xiao that he is a genius, as the aphrodisiac pea technique that Liu Feng gave Zhue last time was very useful. Ling Xiao, hearing this, thinks that the aphrodisiac pea technique was really self-invented. Zhue points to the tied-up person next to him and says he will show her to Ling Xiao. As he removed the sack, Zhue says he camped in the Spirit Mountain for more than 10 days, but finally caught this beast. The beast is a humanoid-type Mo sheep. She was all bruised, with scratches all over her body. Zhue caresses the beast's face and says her face and body are very beautiful. He looks at Ling Xiao and asks if he would like to try, but Ling Xiao responds by shouting that it is not necessary. Zhue explains that these types of beasts are extremely popular in Blood Moon, as the clients are bored of young ladies. Now they like humanoid beasts. Shu starts laughing and saying that if he makes the sheep beast learn the bubbles technique, the clients will be more than ready to pay for their services. The sheep beast starts crying upon hearing what Zhue intends to do with her. Ling Xiao thinks that this guy, General Zhue, is from Blood Moon, a second league sect. They are known for taking humanoid spiritual beasts and forcing them to serve and please their clients, and it seems that Liu Feng is also complicit in this. Ling Xiao keeps thinking that he can no longer get involved with them. Ling Xiao just has to find a way to get the bubbles technique and get out of there. Ling Xiao pretends to be Liu Feng and tells Zhue he has a request for him. Ling Xiao tries to grab the scroll, saying he also needs it, and asks if Zhue can't give it to him. But Zhue places his hand over the scroll, preventing Ling Xiao from taking it. Zhue, with a scary expression, tells Ling Xiao that he seems a bit different. Ling Xiao is completely terrified, thinking that he messed up, believing that Zhue discovered everything. But Zhue just asks why Ling Xiao isn't drinking and takes the opportunity to make a challenge. If Ling Xiao beats him in drinking, he will give the bubbles technique to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao is a bit worried, as he is weak with drinks. He remembers when he got very drunk in his past life. They were celebrating the first anniversary of the Vento do Pavillon sect. He takes the opportunity to thank everyone for being there today, then he toasts everyone, but it doesn't take long for him to get very crazy. Guling tries to calm Ling Xiao, asking him to go rest. The other boy from the sect couldn't believe that Ling Xiao was drunk, as he had only drunk a small cup of drink. Ling Xiao is afraid of getting drunk again, but suddenly Zhue comes close to Ling Xiao and asks what the problem is, and if he is going to back out, because if Ling Xiao backs out, Bubbles will stay with Zhue. So Ling Xiao decides to accept. An hour later, Ling Xiao hands another drink to Zhue, but Zhue is already trembling and can't drink anymore. However, Ling Xiao is practically sober. Zhue, lying on the table, says he can't drink anymore and praises Ling Xiao for being able to drink so much. Ling Xiao thinks that, in fact, he didn't feel anything. He didn't expect Liu Feng to be able to drink so much. Ling Xiao tells Zhue that he will take the bubbles technique with him. Zhue, still lying on the table, just raises his hand and affirms that Ling Xiao can take it. After taking the scroll, Ling Xiao stands up and says he has to train Puny quickly, and that when they are strong enough, Ling Xiao won't have to deal with these people again. As he was leaving, he saw the same humanoid beast from before. Ling Xiao approaches her and sees that she was tied to the foot of the table and was crying on the ground. He extends his hand near her, but she recoils in fear of him. However, Ling Xiao just unties her. She was confused about what he did. Ling Xiao smiles and tells her to run away quickly from there and asks her to be careful next time not to get caught again. Elsewhere, in a beautiful lake in the middle of the forest, Ling Xiao was there with Puni. He sees that river there and tells Puni that it is a great place. Then he tells Puni that he will show him how to get stronger. Puni is very happy with this and starts dancing. First, Puni needs to learn the bubbles technique. The spiritual master can copy the technique to another scroll by enchantments, so that other spiritual beasts can learn the same technique. Ling Xiao starts to open the scroll and tells Puni that it's quite easy. He opens the scroll, and there's a QR code there. He places the scroll on top of Puni, and with that, the scroll is destroyed. But before that, the technique's enchantments are diffused into Puni's body. The technique was successfully learned, and Puni starts to glow, and Ling Xiao is happy with the result. Ling Xiao tells Puni that the bubbles technique was learned. Bubbles is a defensive technique. It consists of forming a protective layer made of water around the body. Ling Xiao says that this technique requires a large amount of water, and that's why they are there by the river. Ling Xiao asks Puni to try using bubbles on him. Puni then prepares, starts to gather some water, and in a matter of seconds the water ball becomes much larger. Ling Xiao praises Puni for doing a good job and asks Puni to move the water ball slowly to Ling Xiao. Puni, doing this, is trembling with nervousness, and because of that, he ends up bursting the water ball in Ling Xiao's face. Ling Xiao starts coughing, and Puni is worried about him, but he tells Puni that he did well and should try again. Next time Puni is taking the water ball to Ling Xiao praises Puni again, and asks Puni to try to envelop Ling Xiao's body with the water ball. Puni manages to envelop Ling Xiao, but Ling Xiao starts to drown inside, as there is a lot of water in the bubble, but after a few attempts, they finally succeeded. Ling Xiao celebrates for finally achieving it. He is now completely covered and protected by water. The next step now is crucial. Ling Xiao asks Puni to swallow him. Puni is confused and shocked by this, but Ling Xiao asks again for Puni to use the swallow technique on him, and Puni remains shocked and open-mouthed. Puni goes up to Ling Xiao to see if he is sick, but Ling Xiao, with a strange expression, says he is not crazy. He explains that it is madness, but that's why he is the only one who knows this secret. Ling Xiao asks Puni to trust him, as he is covered with a protective layer because of the bubbles technique, and so when Puni swallows him, he won't die. Ling Xiao then asks again for Puni to swallow him. Puni starts to prepare and begins to suck Ling Xiao's face. Before being swallowed, Ling Xiao reminds Puni to use the bubbles technique first. As Ling Xiao is being swallowed by Puni, he tells Puni not to be like his predecessor who swallowed Ling Xiao like this. Then, for sure, Ling Xiao will be killed. Puni completely swallowed Ling Xiao and burped to relieve himself. A silence takes over the place, and Puni becomes confused and starts to freak out, thinking he killed his master. But from inside, Ling Xiao speaks to Puni, saying that everything is all right. Puni looks around, searching for his master, but Ling Xiao tells Puni that he is inside his stomach at that moment. Ling Xiao explains that catfish are born with a unique ability that allows them to swallow things much larger than themselves. This only works because inside the catfish, there is an extremely large space, and anything swallowed will be quickly digested. The reason why Ling Xiao is not being digested is that he is protected by the bubbles effect. However, the white snake Xiaobai that Puni previously swallowed was not so lucky. Ling Xiao starts looking around for something, and quickly he finds what he was looking for. He runs towards a red light. Ling Xiao says that Xiaobai has been completely digested and turned into orbs. He picks up the orbs and explains that those orbs will make their beasts strong quickly. Ling Xiao asks Puni to let him out. A little while later, Ling Xiao is already out of Puni's stomach and says that they need to increase a beast's spirit to make it stronger. The only way to increase their spirit is to train them and go into battles, and this is a very long and arduous process. But there is another alternative. They can use a shortcut. The spiritual beast that Puni swallowed will be refined into spiritual atoms inside Puni's stomach. Ling Xiao takes the orbs in his hand and asks Puni to look. Ling Xiao says that those are the spiritual orbs that he recovered from Puni's stomach. Ling Xiao shows the orbs and explains that Xiaobai was a fire-type spiritual beast. So she was transformed into these two orbs, the beast and fire orbs. Ling Xiao's beasts are of the water, vine, and beast types. He begins to summon one of his beasts. Teddy appears, and Ling Xiao hands him a beast orb, which is of the same type as Teddy. Then Teddy eats the orb. His eyes begin to glow intensely, and suddenly, his whole body starts to glow. Ling Xiao managed to strengthen his beast without any training, only by consuming beast orbs. Ling Xiao explains that his beasts are still in the infancy stage, but the snake Xiaobai was at level 5 of the mature stage, and therefore she had many more spirits than his beasts. Ling Xiao looks at Teddy and says that he can become drastically stronger. Teddy is currently in the infancy stage, but after consuming the spiritual orb, he reached the final level of the infancy stage, and now Teddy is going to the next stage. Teddy starts to glow intensely and suddenly he gets bigger. As he reached level 6 of the mature stage, his type level was also increased. He gained new techniques being sudden attack and wild growl. Puny goes up to Teddy and asks something, and Teddy answers. Ling Xiao, looking at this, realizes that Teddy has grown after reaching the mature stage. Ling Xiao says that even with just one spirit orb, Teddy went to the mature stage and already at level 6, this is a shortcut to becoming strong quickly. So Ling Xiao decides to look for spiritual beasts of the beast, water, or vine types in that forest. Ling Xiao explains that Puny will swallow them and transform them into spiritual orbs. And thus Ling Xiao will considerably raise the level of his beasts. Ling Xiao is determined and tells his beasts that they will become very strong soon and they will no longer be afraid of anyone. After that, Ling Xiao will take his beasts to rebuild the Vento do Pavillon sect. With this, all his beasts get excited about what's to come, but suddenly they hear something in the bushes. A chubby lizard comes out of the bushes. Onion runs and gives the lizard an arm lock. Teddy steps on it and uses his weight to immobilize the lizard, and Puny starts to suck the lizard to transform it into an orb. Ling Xiao, seeing that his beasts caught a spiritual beast, praises them because that beast really was of the beast type, and Puny can refine it for Teddy to consume. But Ling Xiao explains that this spiritual beast is only at level 3 of the infancy stage. The amount of spirits in it is very low. So it's not enough to evolve a level of Teddy. Ling Xiao takes the lead, points up and says they should find stronger spiritual beasts. Only then will the spirit of their beasts increase significantly. Ling Xiao asks to just let the small beasts go their own ways, so Ling Xiao lets the little lizard go away. Sometime later, Ling Xiao comes out of the bushes and spots something. He points to what he saw and says it's a decent beast, and they should start with it. The monster is a giant frog. Its name is Huge Chin Frog. Its ability is poison, and currently it's at level 5 of the mature stage. Sometime later, a large purple smoke was in the forest. It was Ling Xiao's battle against the frog. The battle was so intense that it even shook the water of a nearby lake, and the frog's poison was so powerful that it burned the smaller plants. Ling Xiao managed to win the battle, but he and his beasts were injured and poisoned. Ling Xiao was trembling, lying on the ground next to Onion, who was also trembling. Ling Xiao looks at Puny and says that the frog has finally been swallowed. Puny was very full from swallowing the frog, but he burps to relieve himself and poison comes out of his mouth. Ling Xiao starts coughing and points out that they were very careless. The frog's toxin was very powerful. Ling Xiao sees Puny and Onion poisoned, and even he was poisoned. His hand is turning purple from the poison. Ling Xiao thinks things got bad if they don't treat themselves in time. But suddenly the toxin starts to decrease. This shocks Ling Xiao. He looks to the side and Teddy was there with no poison at all. He asks if it was Teddy who cured the poison and how he did that. Teddy stands on Onion as a demonstration, and Ling Xiao yells at Teddy to stop. After everyone is cured of the poison, Ling Xiao gathers them all and shows 2 orbs. They obtained an aquatic-type orb and a poison-type orb by swallowing the poisonous frog. Ling Xiao says the aquatic-type spiritual orb will be used to increase Puny's level, and Teddy will get the poison-type spiritual orb to increase Teddy's subtype. Teddy and Puny scream with excitement. Onion feels sad seeing that only Teddy and Puny are receiving spiritual orbs. But Ling Xiao talks to him and explains that plant-type spiritual beasts are less common. Ling Xiao asks Anyan not to worry, as they will now look for plant-type spiritual beasts, and assures Anyan that he will become stronger. Ling Xiao raises his finger and explains that through this method, all of them will become at least 20 times stronger much faster, and if they train there for 2 weeks, it will be equivalent to a year of training for others. Puni, Teddy, and Onyan are extremely happy with this, but their happiness soon ends when Ling Xiao says there is a downside to this method, as when they are focused only on evolving and not on gaining battle experiences, they will be weak during a battle. Ling Xiao makes a scary face and tells them that for the next 2 weeks, he will give them intense training to increase their battle skills. Ling Xiao emphasizes that they must be mentally prepared for what is to come. This leaves Puny, Teddy, and Onion completely scared. Ling Xiao raises his fingers and tells everyone that the 2-week hell training starts now. On the first day of training, Onion, Puny, and Teddy are chasing some footprints on the ground. On the second day of training, Puny, Teddy, and Onion are battling a tree beast. By the 5th day of training, Teddy and Onion are helping Puny swallow a bear, and as time passes, Onion, Puny, and Teddy become stronger and stronger. The 2 weeks pass, and Ling Xiao finally achieves his preliminary goals. Ling Xiao says they all did a great job. Ling Xiao sighs and starts putting a band on his arm. He clenches his fists and says that now they will head towards Vento do Pavilion. He calls the pig again and runs towards the sect. They pass through a plateau, bamboo grove, and even mountains, and finally arrive at Vento do Pavilion sect. Entering the sect, Ling Xiao notices that the ground and walls are all cracked, as if abandoned. Ling Xiao is speechless at this moment. He remembers how it used to be, and now, in just 1 year, it has become like this. Ling Xiao wonders how this happened. Ling Xiao enters the gate and notices that there are no guards, and the door is open. Ling Xiao wonders how everyone in the sect is now, but suddenly Ling Xiao hears a scream. A member of Vento do Pavilion sect is lying on the ground and injured. Apparently his spiritual beast is already dead. Another person begins to advance with his spiritual beast. A guy with his arms behind his back says it's a waste that a worthless sect is occupying such a nice place. The bald guy, apparently the leader of this group, begins to say that this place now belonged to them, Giant Stone. The bald guy tells the members of the sect to pack up and leave if they don't want to die. The bald guy's beast is a dragon lizard at level 1 of the formation stage. Guling goes to the injured guy and asks if he's okay. He responds with a trembling voice that this group suddenly arrived and attacked him. Another member of Vento do Pavilion sect starts shouting, saying they are a bunch of bandits who dared to provoke them in their own home. The boy begins to summon his spiritual beast. He summons his spirit beast, a shadow cat, a feline-type spirit beast. Its subtype is darkness, and it is in the formation stage, level 3. The bald man, upon seeing the cat, says that the shadow cat has finally appeared. He points out that the Pavilion Wind sect can barely hold up against the shadow cat. All other spirit beasts have been killed by other sects. The bald man orders his subordinates to kill the shadow cat so that the Pavilion Wind sect will be theirs. Then, his subordinates summon their spirit beasts, the Beetle King and the Thorn Turtle. The Beetle King is in the mature stage, its type is insect, and it is at level 9. The Thorn Turtle is in the Earth formation, at level 1. The boy, upon hearing the bald man saying that they are barely holding up, responds by saying that the bald man knows nothing about the power of the shadow cat. The boy calls the cat meows, and the boy says, "Cut them to pieces." Then, the cat quickly leaps and starts running towards the enemy's spirit beasts. The bald man is shocked by the speed of the cat and yells for everyone to keep their distance. The lizard starts spinning very fast and tries to hit the cat with its tail whip. However, the cat is faster and manages to dodge without much difficulty. The cat is so fast that it sees the lizard's tail passing slowly by its side. It uses its deadly slice ability and passes through the lizard's tail, cutting it into several pieces. The lizard screams in pain, and the bald man is already sweating in shock. He yells to surround the cat. The turtle hides inside its shell and starts spinning and going towards the cat. The boy is worried about the cat, but the cat manages to jump before being hit by the turtle. From above, it uses its ability and cuts the turtle into several cubes. The cat even mocks them as if it had been easy and starts licking its paw. The subordinates start to get desperate. The one in the back starts yelling because his turtle has died, but the one in the front commands his beetle king to attack the cat. The beetle starts running and goes towards the cat, who is still licking its paw. It turns with a frightening look and simply disappears so fast that it jumped. It makes a spiral and uses its deadly slice ability and slices the beetle king with extreme ease. The beetle falls to the ground and the cat continues walking, leaving the thieves terrified and trembling. The boy looks at the thieves and says that they overestimated themselves, but at this moment the bald man looks at one of his subordinates and nods his head. They still had a plan. The subordinate uses his magic to give orders to his beast. The beetle king, still alive, starts to move, even with difficulties, and ejects its horn as if it were a missile. The horn goes towards Guling and the others, who are left without reaction watching the horn come their way. The boy yells for his cat to protect the sect members, so his cat runs and cuts the horn into several pieces before it reaches the group. At that moment, Guling realizes something. She yells for the cat to be careful, but it's too late. The lizard bites the cat so hard that blood splatters everywhere. The boy is shocked and screams for his cat. The lizard continues biting the cat while Guling looked at it in amazement. The lizard throws the cat to the side, which starts to bounce on the ground due to the force with which the lizard threw it. The boy quickly runs to see his cat, and when he gets there, he sees his cat lying on the ground. The cat just makes a noise for its owner, as if it were a goodbye. The boy picks up his cat and starts crying while hugging it. The boy screams, begging for his cat not to die. The thieves celebrate having killed the shadow cat. The bald man looks at the sect members and says that now the Pavilion Wind sect is without spirit beasts to fight. The bald man smiles and says that they are dead now. The lizard starts walking and goes towards the boy, who was desolate because of his cat. The bald man says that everyone there from the Pavilion Wind sect is out of touch with reality. The glory days of the sect are in the past. The bald man says that he can easily destroy them there and then, and he will start with the boy. At that moment, the boy didn't care about anything anymore. He has already lost his leader, his hope, and now his cat, which he loved. For him, death would be a relief from the pain he was feeling at the moment. The lizard was already preparing to attack, but Guling yells and asks him to stop. Suddenly, a squirt of pee hits the lizard's head. The lizard quickly turns to see who attacked. The bald man asks who that person was. Ling Xiao appeared with a pea gun in his hand. Ling Xiao looks at the thieves and asks how a bunch of trash like them dares to attack his sect. Guling and the others are impressed with Ling Xiao, but Guling is completely paralyzed by what she is seeing. She sees her leader asking the thieves if they are tired of living. Guling starts to tremble, wondering if this is real, but her vision starts to blur. She sees that it was actually Ling Xiao who was there. She covers her mouth and blushes, saying she was hallucinating. Guling turns to her companions and asks them who that person was, but they all say they don't know who he is. At that moment, the bald man yells at Ling Xiao that this matter is none of his business, and if Ling Xiao doesn't want to die along with the sect, it's better for him to leave. But Ling Xiao responds that this matter is indeed his business, as he's the owner of the sect. Ling Xiao releases Teddy and tells him to show the results of their training. Teddy starts running quickly. The bald man asks if Ling Xiao is crazy, as Teddy is still in the mature stage and the bald man's lizard is in the formation stage. The bald man says that if Ling Xiao wants Teddy to die, he will be happy to help. Teddy is heading towards the lizard, but suddenly the lizard uses its paw to attack. However, before being hit, Teddy uses his ball ability to nullify any physical damage. The lizard hits Teddy, but it has no effect. The bald man starts sweating and thinks this is impossible, as even taking a direct hit from his lizard, Teddy is still intact. Ling Xiao tells Teddy that he is going too easy and asks him to show the claw attack. Then Teddy jumps and hits the lizard in the face. The blow was so strong that the lizard spat blood. The bald man and the hairy man were dumbfounded by this, but it wasn't over. Teddy started to give several consecutive blows, leaving the lizard no time to react. Ling Xiao continued to manage from afar. Suddenly, Teddy jumped and held the lizard with his hands and feet and gave a belly bump to the lizard that threw it far away. The lizard fell to the ground with force and fainted. The hairy man screams and asks what happened. The bald man is outraged that a weak dog managed to beat his dragon lizard. Ling Xiu thinks these thieves are very bad at battles, as they didn't even notice that the lizard was hit by the weakening pea right at the beginning, and that's why it lost. The bald man asks his subordinates not to be afraid, as Ling Xiu is just one. Then the bald man decides to summon all his spirit beasts. Then several spirit beasts of the mature and infant stage appeared. The bald man yells that even if his beasts are low level, Ling Xiao is outnumbered. The bald man tells them to forget the dog and attack Ling Xiao directly. Ling Xiao, seeing this, is amazed. Then Ling Xiao decides to run and says that the bald man is using dirty tricks again. The hairy man praises the bald man's plan, saying it is very effective. The bald man says they have to eliminate Ling Xiao, no matter how. However, this was all part of Ling Xiao's plan. The thieves run past and Ling Xiao was just waiting for them. The bald man and the hairy man are shocked again by what they see. Ling Xiao calls them fools and asks if they really thought Ling Xiao was running away. He explains that he just needed the thieves' beasts to pass through the door so that Ling Xiao could defeat them all at once. Onion is now at the maximum mature stage, and only he was holding all the thieves' spirit beasts. One of the thieves yells that Ling Xiao has more spirit beasts, and the bald man points out that they are much stronger than their spirit beasts. Ling Xiao calls Puny and says they have friends coming to feed him, and asks Puny to thank them. Puny then arrives behind the thieves, with a sinister aura that leaves the bald man and the hairy man paralyzed for a while. The two are frightened by Puny being behind them, and at that moment, Onion makes a move and throws all the thieves' beasts to Puny, and Puny swallows them all at once. Puny is at the maximum mature stage as well. The thieves fall to the ground and start trembling in fear. Puny, in the back, burps as always after swallowing a beast. Ling Xiao points to Puny and thanks the thieves for feeding his beast, as Ling Xiao was worried about how he would find high-quality spirit beasts. The bald man points to Puny and asks, with a trembling voice, if that beast was the whale. Upon closer inspection, he realizes that it really was the whale in its infancy stage. He asks Ling Xiao how he managed to get it. Another member of the thieves asks if they didn't give an order to eliminate that fish, and the bald man yells yes. The bald man points to Ling Xiao and says that Ling Xiao is against the alliance and says that he will have problems with that. The bald man continues saying that now he has Ling Xiao in his hands, as if he tells the alliance that Ling Xiao has the whale, he will be hunted and imprisoned for that. Ling Xiao, with a frightening expression, responds to the bald man saying that if everyone is killed, they will not be able to make a report to the alliance. All the thieves are completely terrified, and the hairy man says that Ling Xiao is right. But Ling Xiao says that the thieves would have a disgusting taste, so Puny wouldn't eat them, and Puny nods his head, confirming. Ling Xiao says to Teddy that he would leave that to him, and Teddy starts growling at the thieves. The thieves, terrified, ask Ling Xiao to wait, as they won't say anything to the alliance, and ask Ling Xiao to spare their lives. But suddenly, squirts of pee hit the thieves' faces. The bald man starts coughing and asks why Teddy did that. Ling Xiao starts saying that Puny is wanted all over the continent, and Ling Xiao is afraid that this will be exposed soon, so they are well prepared for that. That pee from before is a technique that Ling Xiao invented for Teddy. It's called amnesia. Ling Xiao tells the thieves to forget everything that happened there. Now, suddenly, Gu Ling appears calling Ling Xiao and asking if they are okay. But when she sees what is happening, she is startled. The thieves are completely confused, wondering what happened and why they can't remember anything. After passing through the sex door, the hairy man even asks where their spirit beasts are. Ling Xiao tells the thieves that if they don't leave now, he will beat them again. Teddy and Onion take the opportunity to scare them a little more. Even though they don't remember what happened, they decide to flee before doing anything. Gu Ling calls Ling Xiao and asks where their spiritual monsters are. Ling Xiao answers that he scared them all away. Gu Ling calls Ling Xiao a hero and thanks him. She asks how they can repay the favor, but suddenly Ling Xiao hugs Gu Ling and says, "It's great to see them all again." Ling Xiao continues hugging Gu Ling, and her chest starts to touch Ling Xiao. She blushes and doesn't know what to say. She wonders if Ling Xiao will ask her to repay the favor by devoting herself to him. Gu Ling tells Ling Xiao to take it easy. Ling Xiao releases her and says that now she doesn't know who he is. Gu Ling is confused by what Ling Xiao is saying. Ling Xiao puts his hand on his waist and says, "You may not believe it, but I am." At that moment, Ling Xiao realizes something. He realizes that he cannot tell who he really is. Some people must have altered the evolution of the whale previously. That's why it went from whale to zombie whale, and the goal of that person was to destroy Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao thinks they might be one of them and watches their every move in secret. They might even be the people close to them. They might try to attack Ling Xiao again if they find out that he is reincarnated. Ling Xiao thinks he might not be able to deal with them with his current power. This would not only put Ling Xiao's life at risk, but also affect the investigation of the incident with his family. It could even put the sect members in danger. That's why Ling Xiao cannot say who he is. Not for now, at least. Ling Xiao scratches his head and says that Gu Ling is very familiar to him. He says it's a pleasure to meet her, and says his name is Lu Feng and he is a florist. He decides to keep the truth a secret for now. Gu Ling introduces herself and thanks Ling Xiao for saving the sect. Ling Xiao grabs Gu Ling by the arm and runs off, asking her to take him inside to meet everyone else. Upon entering the sect again, we can see the remains of the turtle and the beetle king. The sect members were also there. Gu Ling introduces Ling Xiao to everyone, saying he is the hero who saved them. Everyone greets him and thanks him for saving them. Ling Xiao waves to them and says no thanks are needed, he just did what was right. Ling Xiao notices that everyone was still there in the sect. That was great. However, he looks at the boy who is holding the cat. Gu Ling goes to the boy to talk to him. He informs that the shadow cat was dead. Ling Xiao, upon hearing this, is paralyzed and Gu Ling starts crying. Ling Xiao remembers that when he caught that cat, when it was still a cub, it was him and Duan, who is the boy we are talking about. The two were happy to have caught that cat. Duan is very happy because the speed of this cat is unbelievable, besides being very rare. Ling Xiao hands the cat to Duan and says that now the cat was his. Duan is completely amazed by this and asks if Ling Xiao was serious. Ling Xiao replies that since Duan wants it so much, now it's his, but Ling Xiao asks him to take good care of the cat. Duan, with tears in his eyes, yells saying that he will take very good care of it and make it one of the strongest spirit beasts. Ling Xiao was already frustrated with what happened, and Gu Ling explains to him that the shadow cat was given to Duan by his master, and since then, it is Duan's favorite spirit beast. Gu Ling tells Duan that she is sorry for his loss, but Duan just says with a calm and depressed voice that he will leave the sect. Gu Ling is surprised and asks where he is going. Duan replies that all his spirit beasts are dead and it no longer makes sense to stay there, so he should no longer stay in the sect. Duan says he is sorry, but he intends to leave. Gu Ling tries to stop him, but Duan just walks away. He passes by Ling Xiao, who is sad because his friend is leaving. Ling Xiao turns and grabs Duan's clothes and tries to stop him from leaving. Ling Xiao yells for Duan not to go and says that the pavilion wind has not ended yet and he can help the sect to rise again. Duan asks who Ling Xiao thinks he is. Duan turns around and starts yelling that Ling Xiao can't help, as how could an outsider help? Duan points out that the Pavilion Wind sect used to be the best sect in the world and its strength is not even worth mentioning. But suddenly, Gu Ling interferes to prevent the fight from continuing. She asks Duan not to say those things and asks Ling Xiao to forgive Duan, as he is very upset and probably didn't mean those things. Ling Xiao is frustrated with this. In the past, Duan was looking for a sect that he saw on a flyer. He asks if that was the place. Ling Xiao goes to Duan and asks if he wants to join the sect, but he was indifferent there. He said that Ling Xiao seemed too young to be a leader. Duan asks how many members the sect had. Ling Xiao replies that it was just him, actually. Duan turns around and asks how there is only him in the sect. Ling Xiao replies that recruitment has just started. Duan started looking at the sect and was complaining about several things, such as, the place looks very small. There is no sign of entrance. Are you short of money? The uniform doesn't seem to be good. I like red. The living conditions don't seem very good. Do you provide hot water? And just a shared bathroom, I would have a bright future if I joined you. Ling Xiao sighs and tells Duan that, if he hates it so much, it's better. But before Ling Xiao finishes speaking, Duan waves his hand and says, those things are not important. He asks Ling Xiao to answer just one thing. Duan shows the flyer that Ling Xiao wrote and says that it was written there that Ling Xiao wants to build the best sect in the world. Duan asks if Ling Xiao is serious about this, and if Ling Xiao is confident that he can do it. Ling Xiao responds affirmatively, and Duan shakes Ling Xiao's hand, saying that he will join the sect with Ling Xiao and build the best sect in the world. He also asks Ling Xiao not to disappoint him. After remembering how he met Duan, Ling Xiao remains frustrated that his friend is leaving and he can't do anything about it. Guling continues trying to stop him, saying that Duan can't leave, as they must continue their leader's legacy and stay and protect the Pavilion Wind. Duan, crying, says that the leader is dead and he was the one who took the sect to the top. Without him, the Pavilion Wind sect is nothing. Guling starts crying too and asks Duan not to say such things, as they still can. Duan interrupts her and asks her to face reality. The Pavilion Wind has been declining since last year. Hearing this, everyone in the sect is shocked. Duan wipes his tears and starts to leave. As he leaves, he says he wants to forget that place and start a new life, and asks everyone to be well. Guling runs to the other members and asks Xiao and Zhou to stop Duan from leaving, but the rest of the sect agrees with Duan and says he is right. Guling is even more shocked. Xiao says that the Pavilion Wind now only exists in name. Other sects would crusade against them from time to time. They will take their resources and kill their spirit beasts, making it impossible to grow again. The sect has now been relegated. It's only a matter of time before the sect collapses. They all greet Guling and inform her that they are also going to leave. They thank her for taking care of them in the past, but now they must go their separate ways. As they leave, Guling tries to talk to them and stop them from leaving, but it's in vain. They continue to leave. Ling Xiao shouts for everyone to wait, and, at that moment, everyone looks at him. Ling Xiao asks them not to go. The Pavilion Wind is not over. Ling Xiao tries to reveal who he really is, but the possible consequence of revealing his true identity comes to his mind. So, he falls to his knees on the ground. He is frustrated that he can't say who he is. He asks again for everyone to trust him. If they give him more time, he will overcome all difficulties and restore the glory of the Pavilion Wind. Everyone is somewhat suspicious of what Ling Xiao was saying, but suddenly Duan starts to return. He stops in front of everyone and faces the sect's gate. He bows and everyone bows before the sect and wishes the best, and with that they leave, leaving Ling Xiao and Guling. Ling Xiao asks why this is happening. He just needs a little more time as he can rebuild the sect. He sees himself in the image of his old body kneeling on the ground and begs them not to leave. Guling covers her face with her hand as she cries, but suddenly someone puts a hand on her shoulder. It's Chen Shi, the youngest member of the sect. He tells Guling not to be upset. Guling is surprised that Chen Shi is still there. Chen Shi responds that Guling was the one who appeared in his life when he was in his worst phase, so he couldn't just leave. Chen Shi emphasizes that wherever Guling goes, he will go with her. Guling pats Chen Shi's head and says she's sorry for bringing him when the sect is at its lowest point. Guling says it's not even a year since Chen Shi has gone through many hardships. She says she has only wasted Chen Shi's life. Chen Shi asks Guling not to say those things anymore. Guling is downcast as now it's just the two of them in the sect from now on. But at that moment, someone calls them. This woman is Tong. She is the sect's cook. Tong asks Guling how much food she should make for lunch today, as several people have left. Guling had thought Tong had left too. Tong responds that she doesn't have many places she can go, and she signed a 5-year contract with the sect leader, so she still has to fulfill the contract. But she says to Guling that if Guling wants her to leave too, she will. But Tong emphasizes that the contract says Guling will have to compensate Tong with 3 months of her salary. But Guling says that's not what she meant. Chen Shi pulls Guling by the clothes and calls her. Chen Shi points to Ling Jiao and says the hero is still there, and they are ignoring him. Guling goes to Ling Jiao and apologizes to him for having witnessed all that and for not having treated him properly. She clasps her hands and asks him to stay, rest, and have a meal before leaving. But Ling Jiao just asks to join the sect de Kure. Guling is astonished by this and asks Ling Jiao if he is serious. Ling Jiao thinks that, to investigate the family massacre, the sect must enter the upper league, and that's why he created the Pavilion Wind sect. Ling Xiao continued to evolve his strength for this reason as well. He would destroy entire sects alone. The Pavilion Wind sect grew very quickly because of this, but Ling Xiao neglected the strengths of the other sect members. Ling Xiao blames himself when he remembers the past because he realizes he never took good care of his disciples. Ling Xiao didn't look at them beyond the most basic consideration. He failed to be a leader and didn't make them stronger. Ling Xiao clenched his fists, frustrated because everyone joined the Pavilion Wind sect because they believed in him, but even so, it didn't end well for them. Ling Xiao was very selfish. Guling tells Ling Xiao that the sect is now not in the best condition, and it would be a waste for him to stay in a sect like this with the strength he has. Ling Xiao holds Guling by the shoulders and asks her to stop talking because he wants to join the sect and that's it. He lowers his head and swears. He looks up and shouts that he will restore the glory of the Pavilion Wind and never let anyone leave the sect again. Sometime later, inside the house, Ling Xiao is amazed by something, and Guling behind him says that if Ling Xiao really wants to join the sect, they will welcome him without problems and even hold a simple initiation ceremony for him. Guling asks Ling Xiao to pray to their leader, but he finds it a bit strange because he is praying to himself. Ling Xiao looks better at the portrait and wonders who that is. He asks them if that portrait is of their leader who died. Chenxi replies yes, and it was Sister Gu Ling who drew the portrait. Chenxi says he heard that the leader was exactly like that when he was alive. Gu Ling corrects Chenxi, saying that's not true, and that, in fact, there is only 90% similarity. Meanwhile, Ling Xiao cries as he realizes how people remembered him. Even so, Ling Xiao bowed and prayed to himself. He begins to say, "Leader Ling Xiao, I, Liu Feng, am joining the Pavilion Wind sect and will continue your legacy and strive to help the Pavilion Wind sect become the best sect in the world." Chenxi asks Guling if everything will be okay because Ling Xiao is very enthusiastic about it. Guling smiles and replies, yes, she is sure everything will be fine, even though she doesn't know why. She emphasizes that since she first saw him, he seemed very familiar and feels she can trust him. Guling informs Ling Xiao that from now on she is his senior sister. She introduces herself again and introduces Chenxi as well. Chenxi is happy to have a junior brother now. Ling Xiao clasps his hands and greets them too, his sister and senior brother. Guling starts showing the sect to Ling Xiao. She shows where the guest room and the training room are. Chenxi points to the side and shows where the kitchen is, where Tong is making lunch for them. Guling continues showing the places until she reaches the male dormitory. She opens the door and sees many people inside. One of them was changing and yells at Guling to knock before entering. But all this was just memories. Now the place is completely empty. Guling is upset about this. Chenxi tells Ling Xiao that everyone has left, so he can choose any bed to sleep in, but Chenxi recommends Ling Xiao to stay close to him because it gets a little scary at night. Ling Xiao listens to this somewhat suspiciously. Guling explains to Ling Xiao that since everyone left with the uniforms, and currently they don't have money, he will have to wear his own clothes for now. Chenxi realizes that they should have asked them to take off the uniforms before leaving. Guling says that in fact, they have one spare uniform, but it's for women. Ling Xiao responds that it's not necessary, his clothes are fine. Guling says that now Ling Xiao needs to learn the sect's password, as with the password he can gain access to some alliance facilities, even though they have very limited access now. Ling Xiao sighs because he already knows how ridiculous the password is, so he begins, "Little fish, thud, thud, giant whale, wow, wow, pavilion wind, love, love." Guling congratulates Ling Xiao for learning very quickly. It doesn't even seem like it's his first time doing this. Ling Xiao smiles and nods to her, thinking that it's because he's already familiar with this password. Guling calls him and says it's lunchtime. When they get there, they see beautiful dishes with hot food on the table. Tong brings another pot and asks Ling Xiao to taste her cooking. Guling tells Ling Xiao that she's sorry it's only this much they have to offer, but now they are on a limited budget, and this was all they had. Tong was leaving, and Guling calls her and tells her to eat with them, now that everyone has left. Tong sits at the table and makes a happy face. However, only she was excited there. Ling Xiao, Guling, and Chenxi were melancholic. While eating, there was total silence. But to break the ice, Tong asks them not to be so down, because in life there are ups and downs, but Still, one has to eat to live. Chen Shi smiles and agrees with Tong. He emphasizes that today is a happy day because Ling Xiao joined them, so they should celebrate. Given his strength, they have good chances of being promoted to the upper league. Hearing this, Ling Xiao remembers that in a month there will be an alliance evaluation competition. Gu Ling says they have already registered for next month's competition. If the Pavilion Wind does well, they will be promoted to the 4th league. They have practiced for a long time, so they should enter confidently. However, she fears they might not have enough for the standard test after so many people left the sect. Chen Shi points out that there must be 4 participants, and they are only 3. And even if they try to recruit more members, it wouldn't work because of the current situation of the sect. Ling Xiao asks Tong to join them. Tong is hesitant to accept, as she explains she only knows how to clean and cook, knows nothing about spirit beasts. Gu Ling agrees with Ling Xiao and tells Tong that she can do it, as the leader once said. Don't underestimate Sister Tong. She is talented in the spiritual realm. She is even better than most of you here. She just became a cook because she didn't want to become a spiritual master. Tong, remembering this, blushes and tries to deny all this, but Gu Ling and Chen Shi start begging her to accept, as they are in a critical moment. Tong sighs while eating a bitter melon and thinks that she has been with the Pavilion Wind sect for many years, and everyone has always been kind to her. So she must do more for them as she can. However, she thinks she might be a burden to them because she knows nothing about spirit beasts. Chen Shi comes close to Tong and says it will be fine because she is very talented and will learn very quickly. Tong then decides to accept. She says she will try to do it. Gu Ling makes a cute face and thanks Tong for trying, but Tong emphasizes something. She says that since she has to become a spiritual master and also has her maid duties, she will be paid for both jobs. Quickly, Gu Ling's expression changes and she becomes sad, but Tong starts laughing and says it's a joke and that when circumstances improve they can talk about it. Chen Xi is thrilled to have a junior brother now, and he takes the opportunity that everyone is there and suggests choosing a new leader, as they need a new leader for the competition. Gu Ling remembers Duan and says that the best candidate for leader was him because he joined the sect before everyone else and was the strongest among them. But sadly, he left the sect. Chen Xi looks at Ling Xiao and shouts that now he knows who can be the new leader. Ling Xiao is surprised by this. However, he begins to say that since he just arrived, he's not sure about this. But before Ling Xiao finishes speaking, Chen Xi names Gu Ling as the new leader of the sect. Gu Ling blushes with embarrassment, but Ling Xiao blushes even more and buries his face in the food. They all salute the new leader. Gu Ling says being treated this way reminds her of the sect's old leader. She says she will be the sect's acting leader for a while and will help the sect improve. Chen Xi is happy because it's been a while since they were last this excited. He asks the leader what the next step is. Ling Xiao and Gu Ling speak at the same time, saying that first, they need to acquire spirit beasts. Gu Ling smiles and asks Ling Xiao to continue, but Ling Xiao declines and asks Gu Ling to continue, as she is the leader. Gu Ling explains that because of the various attacks the sect has been suffering, neither she nor Tong have spirit beasts anymore. They were all killed. She says the most important task now is to acquire new spirit beasts and train them to participate in the competition. But since all the places where the best quality beasts are have been taken by other sects, they can't find better quality spirit beasts. However, Ling Xiao says he knows a place. He thinks that at that time, when he was hunting spiritual orbs to level up, he found some deserted places with high-quality spirit beasts. Now is the time to use them. Ling Xiao bangs the plate on the table and tells them not to waste time and to move right now. As they went to the location, Chen Xi says he frequently makes that journey and has never seen anything special there. But Ling Xiao replies that it wouldn't be a secret place if it could be easily found. Ling Xiao turns around and informs everyone that they are arriving and asks everyone to be careful. He takes a branch and starts to erase the tracks they made so as not to make it easy for people to find, as it's better that only they know about that place. Ling Xiao asks everyone to look around to see if there's anyone nearby who might see them, and Chen Xi finds Ling Xiao very careful. Ling Xiao takes the lead again and asks everyone to follow him. He points ahead and says the place is just behind that rock, but when they get there, the place is completely full of people who want spirit beasts. Suddenly a hamster appears and one of the people shouts that a hamster has appeared. Everyone quickly turns around and runs to catch the hamster. Chenxi, Guling, Lingxiu, and Tong are dumbfounded by what is happening there. Tong asks Lingxiu if that was the secret and deserted place he had talked about. Several people who were there were competing to see who could catch a small hamster that had appeared there. Chenxi looks at the number of people there and tells Lingxiao that the secret place where the spiritual beasts rested, which he had mentioned before, has become a resting place for humans now. Tong asks them how they were going to catch anything there, as everything that appeared was fiercely contested to see who would get the spiritual beasts. She asks if they were really going to stay there, or if they were going to another place where there were fewer people competing. However, Lingxiao asks everyone to stay calm and not worry. He just asks everyone to follow him. They reach a cliff. Lingxiao turns around and asks Chenxi to check if anyone else was following them. Chenxi turns around and looks too, and says that no one was following them. After they confirm this, Lingxiao simply jumps off the cliff. Tong and Chenxi don't understand for a few seconds, but as soon as they notice that Lingxiao had jumped off the cliff, the two become desperate and start screaming. Chenxi lies down on the ground near the edge of the cliff and starts shouting at Lingxiao, saying that they were not blaming him for anything. However, suddenly a plant root begins to rise, and Chenxi is completely impressed by this. As soon as everyone goes down with the help of the onion, Lingxiao looks at the wall and says that there was a hidden platform in the mountain wall. Lingxiao looks into the crack and says they would be able to go down further after passing through there. Lingxiao puts the onion inside and says that now he would leave it with him. As soon as the onion reaches the bottom of the crack, Lingxiao tells the rest of his friends that it was time for them to go down there. As soon as everyone reaches the bottom of the crack, Lingxiao says that this is the real place he had talked about before. Tong is impressed with the place. Lingxiao says that this is the real secret habitat of the spiritual beasts. He emphasizes that few people know or have been to that place. Chenxi asks how he knew about this place if it is so secret. Lingxiao does not answer that and just continues explaining about the place. He says that the lord of the habitat is probably inside that cave. Chenxi is very excited about this. He asks if it is really true that there was a lord-level beast living there. Tong doesn't understand very well and asks what a lord-level beast would be. Guling begins to explain that they shouldn't discuss this at this moment, so she asks everyone to continue. Guling emphasizes that the rest of the group should pass the knowledge to Tong, but to help at this moment, she would briefly explain what it was. Guling begins to say that each spiritual beast has a ranking. This ranking is defined by the rarity of the beast and its strength as well. Tong asks if it's like the stages of childhood. Child, teenagers, young people, adults, and old people. Guling smiles discreetly and says, that's not quite it. The ranking, in fact, are the stages of development of the spiritual beasts. The ranking determines who is the strongest and weakest among the spiritual beasts. Tong starts to get completely lost in the explanations. She asks if a spiritual beast with a higher stage of development is stronger. Guling turns around, starting to panic, and says that's not what Tong said. But at that moment, Guling didn't know how to explain this topic anymore. Lingxiao realizes this and asks Guling to let him explain it. Lingxiao begins to explain and starts with a simple question. He looks at Tong and asks her if there was a cat and a tiger at the same stage of development, stage 3. Which one would be stronger? Tong says the tiger would be stronger. Lingxiao says that's right, and that's because the tiger has a louder and stronger roar than the cat. There are 4 different rankings. The first is the pledge, the second is the warrior, the third is the lord, and the fourth and highest is the king. The spiritual beasts of pledge ranking are the most common, for example, the onion. It is like the cat. The spiritual beasts in the warrior ranking are stronger and have greater power, and therefore they are more difficult to find. They are like the tiger. The spiritual beasts in the lord ranking are even stronger. They are extremely rare. There are probably only 1 or 2 of these in an entire habitat. They are also extremely powerful. Chenxi smiles and says that this is his target, as he wants it. Lingxiao continues explaining and says that the beasts in the king ranking are almost impossible to find. One needs to be very lucky to get one of these. Guling is happy with this explanation and says that the whale of the old sect leader was in the king ranking, and that is amazing. Lingxiao takes advantage of this and says that the ranking of a spiritual beast is not permanent. It can be improved, elevating the spiritual beast perfectly. This is how a fish can be raised to become a whale. In summary, Given the same stage of development, a spiritual beast with a higher ranking is stronger. Ling Xiao asks Tong if she has understood now. Tong is happy and says that she has totally understood now and thanks Ling Xiao, saying that he is really good at explaining things. Guling is also very happy with this, opening a beautiful smile on her face, and also says that Ling Xiao is really smart. With this, his explanation was perfect and clear. She says that he can be compared to the previous sect leader. Ling Xiao is a bit embarrassed and says that it's not really like that. He is still far behind the old leader. Tong starts to say that she still had a question. If a higher ranking is better, why did they still catch spiritual beasts in the pledge ranking? They could at least catch the beasts in the warrior ranking. With this, the onion becomes upset. Tong apologizes, saying that's not what it seems. She didn't mean that he was weak, but she just wanted to be the reason why they still did this. Guling smiles and says that she would explain this. She begins to say that this is because a beastmaster's pool is limited. Tong doesn't understand very well and asks if the pool is where the spiritual beasts go when their masters make them disappear using the swoosh. Guling says that's exactly it. Each master has a pool that can store the beasts. A pool would get bigger according to the master's cultivation. However, it is still limited. No matter how much cultivation a person trains, the pool would always be limited. Additionally, a higher-ranking spiritual beast would take up more space inside the pool. Tong says that this means a person can catch a high-ranking beast, but a pair of low-ranking spiritual beasts. She asks if that's what they are trying to tell her. Guling is proud of herself, saying that her explanation isn't as bad as she thought. Guling explains that, as Tong hasn't cultivated yet, a warrior-ranking beast could fill her entire pool. Guling says that even the old sect leader could put a king-ranking beast in his pool, and with that, there was no space left for more beasts in his team. Ling Xiao compliments the explanation, saying that a person can easily defeat a higher-ranking beast with a good combination of pledge-ranking beasts. Therefore, there is no need to cling too much to the rankings. Breeding is more important than ranking. In their case, it is because the competition is coming. The only way to improve quickly is to catch the highest-ranking spiritual beast. Chun Shi says that now that everything has been explained, they should leave immediately to catch the spiritual beasts as quickly as possible. They start to go deeper into the cave, looking for the beasts. As they walked, Tong starts to see some things on the ground. She asks if these things were also spiritual beasts, but they didn't seem powerful. She asks if these were in the pledge ranking. Ling Xiao says that's right, the rock flower type flower. They are in the pledge ranking. Judging by their shapes, they are probably at level 5 or 6 in the infant stage. Guling is impressed again, and says that Ling Xiao really is amazing. He knows everything. Chen Qi says that it is really unbelievable. Ling Xiao is embarrassed again, and says that he only knows them because he is a florist. Walking a little further, Tong sees some monkeys. She says that they seem a bit stronger than the flower beasts. She asks if they are in the warrior ranking. Ling Xiao says that the cave monkeys are also in the pledge ranking. He points out that pledge-ranked spiritual beasts are usually more submissive, while higher-ranked beasts will be more aggressive. He asks them to be careful. They continue exploring the place. Tong comes across a spiritual beast and starts to sweat. She says that this beast is probably in the warrior ranking. The beast in front of them was a firetail fox. It really is a warrior ranking. Its subtype is fire. It is at the formation stage, level 2. As soon as Ling Xiao sees this, he gets a little scared, as it shouldn't be there. It wasn't right. He yells for everyone to be careful, as this beast belongs to some master. A person appears behind Ling Xiao and tries to hit him with a dagger in his hand, but Ling Xiao quickly dodges. Everyone gets into a fighting position and stares at each other. The man asks how they got there, although for him it wouldn't make a difference. He says he was taking that place for himself and wouldn't have pity on anyone. Chen Shi starts to scream, outraged by this. He says that this place is a public spiritual beast habitat, designated by the Alliance, and anyone can catch their beasts there. Chen Shi asks by what right this man was trying to take this whole place for himself. The man, very calmly, says it's simple for them to find out. His right was just to ask his firetail fox. The fox was already prepared to attack. Chun Shi speaks softly, asking what they should do, as they didn't have spiritual beasts yet, so they couldn't fight this guy. However, Ling Xiao tells them not to worry, and to stay calm. He asks everyone to take off their summoning rings, just like he was doing. Ling Xiao points out that even though they don't have beasts yet, they could change the color of the rings. That way, they could fool this guy and scare him. Guling loves the idea and starts doing it immediately. Ling Xiao starts to speak louder to the guy, and says that he thinks too highly of himself. A simple fox wouldn't be enough to win this battle. Chen Shi starts to make his ring too and change its color. As he was doing this, he was also making faces like a madman. He says that they all should hold on, as he wanted to play first with this guy and his tired fox. He continues to change the colors of the ring, saying he was in doubt about which beast to call first. The guy starts to get a little worried about this. He thinks that the colors of the summoning rings changed 8 times. Based on this, they must have at least 8 beasts to call, not to mention that the whole group looks extremely confident with their facial expressions. Maybe this battle won't be that easy. The fox was still staring at everyone and growling, but its master calls it back, saying they should move on. The fox is a little confused. He turns and says it would be a problem if they killed other humans in a public area, as this area was designated by the Alliance. As the guy leaves, he says that they should keep in mind that this would be a fair dispute. Whoever caught the spiritual beast first would keep it so they couldn't make up any tricks. Chen Shi starts to laugh, saying they made it. Tong is also happy, saying that their acting skills were really good. However, as soon as they start walking, they hear a very loud roar. Tong gets scared and asks what that noise was. Ling Xiao yells that it's extremely powerful. The Lord Beast was there. The guy and his fox start to run quickly ahead. Ling Xiao starts to run too, telling everyone to get ready and run as fast as possible to not let that guy get there first. The guy arrives first, but his face wasn't very happy. As the others start to arrive, they look in the direction of the roar. As soon as they look, they realize that it wasn't what they were really expecting. Tong is disappointed and asks if this was really a Lord-level beast. This beast was the Rhino Panda. It was indeed a Lord-level beast. Its subtype was Light Mature Stage Level 7. Ling Xiao is impressed by this. He says that the panda was already in the mature phase. He warns again that a Lord-ranking beast is extremely stronger than a Pledge-ranking one at the same stage. Moreover, a Lord-ranking spiritual beast has its own special technique, meaning capturing it will be extremely difficult. Ling Xiao asks everyone to stay alert all the time. The guy says that the beast would belong to whoever caught it first, and he didn't want to see any dirty tricks. Quickly, he sends his fox to attack. The fox obeys and jumps to attack the panda using its tails. The panda just looks at it and uses its powers as soon as the fox was close to it. The glow was very intense, causing everyone, including the fox, to close or cover their eyes. As soon as they look again, some things were floating in the air. The guy looks at this and asks what was happening there. Tong is scared by this power and screams for everyone to look, while asking what it was. Chen Shi is also scared by all this. The guy who had attacked the panda turns completely white. He is scared because all the pigment in his body had disappeared. Ling Xiao is also impressed. The panda's special technique was to remove pigment. The guy was still not understanding, looking at his skin, wondering what was happening. Ling Xiao turns to his team and says that this technique is something unusual. He asks everyone to hide immediately. Chen Shi starts to scream worriedly, asking Ling Xiao if he was really going to stay there alone. Tong grabs him and says that, unfortunately, they would be a burden to Ling Xiao, since they didn't have beasts. They needed to protect themselves first so as not to interfere in the battle. Everyone hides behind a rock. Guling says that Ling Xiao has 2 spiritual beasts at the maximum level of the mature stage. He will probably be able to handle this. With all this power, while he fights, they should try to understand how this special attack of the Lord-level beast works. The panda prepares to attack again. The panda begins its attack. Ling Xiao tries to dodge by jumping to the side, but the attack still hits him and starts to take effect. He looks at it and says that there is no way to avoid this attack. Quickly, he starts to turn completely white too. He looks at his skin and gets angry because he had also transformed. The guy who was there says he doesn't understand. The attack seems like petrification, but he hasn't noticed anything wrong with his body yet. The guy looks at his hand again. He notices that it started to recover. His hand begins to return to normal. Suddenly, the two return to normal. The guy looks at Ling Xiao and asks if they were already okay. Ling Xiao notices that something is still missing. He tells the guy to look at the panda's horn. At that moment, the horn was colored and shining. Suddenly, the panda releases a beam with the power and hits Ling Xiao right in the belly. He looks at his hand and realizes that his body was full of colorful spots. He starts to get nervous about this. The guy who was there with him is astonished by this. Chen Shi shouts that this is very bad because Ling Xiao was poisoned. Ling Xiao calls his beast Teddy and asks him to quickly use the antidote, which would be his urine. Teddy looks at Ling Xiao without understanding. Ling Xiao starts to get desperate and shouts for Teddy to use the antidote quickly because he was poisoned. Teddy is still a bit shy, but Ling Xiao keeps screaming, asking him to be quick. Suddenly, Teddy uses the antidote and hits his master, But it doesn't help, and Ling Xiao continues to be desperate. The panda continues its attack, but this time it hits Teddy, who also gets full of colorful spots all over his body. Ling Xiao screams, asking what kind of poison it is that even the poison-type plush cub cannot be immunized. The guy shouts, saying that Ling Xiao was just an idiot because he couldn't dodge a simple attack. Now this Lord-level beast would be his. Meanwhile, the panda continued its attack. This time it hits the fox, but the attack was not something simple. The guy is astonished by what he's seeing right in front of him because his fox had been pierced with the attack. Guling is shocked by the strength of the panda's attack. Tong screams, saying that she couldn't believe that the panda's attack had actually pierced through the fox's body. Thus, the guy starts running towards his fox. He picks up his fox in his arms, worried, shouting for her to hold on, that he would help her. However, he notices something strange there. He puts his hand on the wound and starts asking why the wound was like that. There was no perforation there. The fox's body was normal. The hole in the blood seemed like paintings. Ling Xiao looks at his hand and says that he also wasn't feeling anything wrong with his body, even though he had been poisoned all this time. Apparently, the poison wasn't real either. Guling and Chen Shi are confused, asking if those attacks weren't real. The hole in the fox and the stains on Ling Xiao's body began to disappear. Ling Xiao realizes this and says that now he had understood everything. The panda's special technique worked by absorbing pigments and creating illusions of those colors. The guy gets angry, saying that now he can see. They were fooled by the panda. He and the panda start staring at each other. The guy turns around and asks what the trick behind this was. As soon as he turns around, he sees the panda behind him, ready to attack. This technique was called pigment buff. The guy gets scared of this and dodges the panda's blow at the last second by jumping to the side. However, he is very scared by the panda's speed and strength. At this time, Ling Xiao was completely painted, just like a panda. He says that the panda changes their colors to confuse them in the middle of the fight. He emphasizes that it's a very suitable ability in the use of skills. He warns the guy to be careful, because this must be one of the many abilities that the panda can have. The guy gets excited about this and says that he didn't expect this. It's really interesting. He says that it's nothing more than a simple color change. There's no risk of physical damage, it's just a mess. The panda grabs a bamboo in its hand and creates a weapon to fight. With that, he goes after the fox, trying to hit her. However, the fox manages to dodge the attack by jumping. The panda continues to attack quickly. The fox manages to dodge all the attacks with its speed. The fox's master yells at her to keep her distance from the panda. She should stay out of his attack range. She listens to this and jumps back to maintain a safe distance. As soon as the fox distances itself, the guy yells at her to finish with her advanced technique, high-density fireball. The fox starts using its tails to create this fireball. However, the panda points the bamboo at her, and with just a push, he creates a pressure that hits the fox's head with considerable force, causing good pain and throwing the fox backward. She rolls over to near her master. As soon as she stops and gets up again, she is injured, with her forehead bleeding. Her master gets worried again about her. He is astonished by the panda's attack. He asks how he managed to attack from a distance like that. Guling says that it's because of the bamboo that he managed to do this. The panda had changed the color of a part of the bamboo. She says that it's really hard to notice this during a fight. The guy gets irritated, thinking that his fox was injured. The panda was really very strong and intelligent. It was hard to deal with him. The guy doesn't like this, but he doesn't see another way out. He turns to Ling Xiao and asks them to work together. As soon as they caught the panda, they could think of a way to split it or something like that. Ling Xiao says that it was fine by him as long as they could solve the problem they had right in front of them. Ling Xiao starts calling his beasts. The guy gets nervous when he sees this. He shouts, asking if this is really it. Ling Xiao had only 2 pledge-level spiritual beasts in the mature stage. He asks if Ling Xiao was joking with him. However, Ling Xiao doesn't care and simply tells the guy to shut up and pay attention to the fight. He emphasizes that his beasts are extremely strong and restrictive attacks. He would continue attacking and then the fox would finish. Teddy starts attacking fearlessly. He hits his attack on the panda's head. Ling Xiao says it was a good attack. Now the onion would enter the scene. He starts using his roots to attack. However, both hit the panda and do nothing. This scares Ling Xiao because he didn't expect this. The panda doesn't waste time and quickly advances and hits a good blow on the onion, throwing it away. Chen Shi and Tong are worried about this. After that, they realize that what Ling Xiao had attacked was just a rock. The panda had painted its colors on the rock and used the rock's colors on its body. Thus, It could quickly switch places without anyone seeing. The panda uses its attack again and causes a very strong glow again, causing people to close and cover their eyes again. As soon as they look again, the panda had simply disappeared. Ling Xiao says that the panda's speed is not its strong point, so it was probably still close to them. Ling Xiao emphasizes and asks them to stay alert, as the panda could have hidden again using the colors. The guy starts to get annoyed by how much he was being deceived. He says he would show what he was capable of now. He starts using his fire glow ability. The fox starts to shine, its tails in intense flames. A stain appears on the ground. The guy starts to laugh, saying that the panda couldn't hide its own shadow. He tells the fox to jump on the shadow and catch the panda, but as soon as she jumps, she realizes that there was nothing more there. He is surprised because even the shadow was a painted illusion. The panda was really too intelligent. Chen Shi and Guling scream at the guy to pay attention, but it was too late. He falls with great force, punching the fox's head into the ground. The force was so great that it causes a loud noise and completely buries the fox's head in the ground. The fox lies on the ground unable to move properly. The panda starts using another ability, causing a colorful spiral. Ling Xiao, seeing this, gets worried about the situation, asking what it was. This ability was called mental corruption. The two stare at it on the ceiling of the cave. After a few minutes of looking, the guy starts to feel a little dizzy with that image and looks away for a moment. As soon as he does that, the panda appears from the wall. He notices this, but it's too late. The panda hits him right in the face, then hits a punch in Ling Xiao's belly. Chen Shi tries to run to help, but the panda also hits him. Teddy looks at the three of them getting beaten by the panda. He starts growling as he looks at it. In this world, dogs are colorblind. This is how they see the world after improving their sense of smell. Ling Xiao says that he was poisoned now, so Teddy needed to use the antidote. The guy asks his fox to rest a little. Teddy and the onion attack, but miss. The panda prepares to attack again. The dog looks at it without understanding what's really happening. He starts walking and stops behind the panda. Suddenly he hits with his two paws, hitting the panda's head, causing the panda a lot of pain. The panda falls to the ground. Everyone is amazed by this. Ling Xiao bends down to talk to Teddy, asking how he managed to find the panda. Chen Shi celebrates happily because they managed to catch the Lord-level panda. While they were distracted, the guy takes something from his clothes and throws it at the panda, trapping it. As soon as the panda was trapped, he picks up the panda on his shoulders and starts running, shouting that everyone there was just idiots and the panda was his now. Chen Shi gets angry at this and shouts how that guy dared to do this to them. Ling Xiao starts running and shouts for them to catch him quickly. The guy was already leaving the cave. He grabs a dandelion, which is also a pledge-ranking beast, wind subtype. He squeezes the dandelion and flies away with it. As he flies away, he shouts to the others there that he would see them around and thanks them for the good work they had done for him. Chen Shi looks at this guy as he flew and says that he is a despicable idiot. He says that it's now impossible to catch him since he used a flying spirit beast. There's no way they could catch up. Chen Shi turns to Guling and asks if he really used a spirit lock now. She says yes. Tong doesn't understand and asks what that is. Chen Shi says it's a rope that can restrict the spiritual power of a spirit beast and prevent its owner from summoning it back. Due to its high cost and limited functions, not many people use it. It is more likely to be used by this sect. Guling is completely irritated by this. Serenity is a sect of commoners, made up of outlaws. They seem to comply with the alliance, but they do a lot of undercover business. They themselves invaded the Wind Pavilion not long ago and stole the spiritual beasts, not to mention that they also stole the resources. Chen Shi gets even more irritated, saying that he can't believe they were robbed again by that filthy sect. He is furious. When he gets stronger, he will eliminate all of them. Tong asks if they should hunt somewhere else now that they were robbed by that guy. Ling Xiao starts scratching his head and says that it's not easy to find Lord-level beasts like that, so there's no other place for them to go look now. It's easier for them to try to find a beast in the market exchange tomorrow. Meanwhile, it was already night, and in the middle of the forest, the thief was arriving at his village, the subdivision of the Serenity sect. As soon as he arrives, he meets a woman. He says his name is Muchuan, and he would like to see the leader of the nomads. They start walking through the place, where there were several beasts trapped in cages. As he approaches a house, he sees a person waiting for him there. He gets closer and tells the leader that he caught a Lord-level panda. He puts the panda on the ground. The man says that's not bad. He really didn't expect Muchuan to be able to catch a Lord-level beast by himself. This man is named Yang. He is the leader of the Serenity sect. He continues to praise Muchuan for his work, saying that he is really good. The leader asks why he doesn't join the sect once and for all. However, Muchuan says they should stop the nonsense. He asks for leader Yang to release his cryo-tail, as he had promised. The leader starts clapping and asks how Muchuan dares to reject the sect. The leader asks for it to be brought immediately. As soon as it arrives, it was another fox, classified as a warrior. Its subtype was Ice, formation stage level 1. The firefox is very happy when it sees its friend. Muchuan gets close to the cage and tells his ice fox not to be upset, as everything was fine now. He would take her away again. However, while he was removing the chains from the cage, his firefox is hit by the magic rope. Muchuan turns around screaming at Yang and asks what he was doing. Yang smiles and says it was obvious, right? Now he wouldn't be able to call his beast anymore. Muchuan and his firefox are extremely furious. He screams that he would kill Yang and rushes at him wildly, consumed by the anger of being betrayed and having his beasts trapped.